Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Living the Questions. I am. Today is a really fun episode for me. Less actually about the question and more about the meaning of this particular number episode and when it falls on. So, this is the 8th episode of this podcast, and it's airing on May 8th, which to me is such a sweet, just a sweet thing. I'm such a lover of repeated numbers for so many reasons. But 8 in particular is a really specifically special number for me. It is a family number. And so, um, 8 has just been this really sweetly, cosmically connected number in our family. It's, it's my parents' anniversary is the 8th of August. So we got double eights. My sister was born on the 8th. So actually today is her birthday, May 8th. And, happy birthday, Sabrina. I'm so excited to be airing this episode and talking about this sweet family gift that, thread that connects us all together continuously in this episode on your birthday. And yeah, it is so many things. There's so many times this number has come up for our family, and it's just one of those little nods where we all just smile and feel more deeply connected, smile and remember that life is, so much more than the particulars of our day to day, that it kind of pulls us out of the realm of the realm of needing to logistically be in life, and invites us into play and magic and mystery in that way. At least for me, that's how it ends up coming up. Every time I see it, I'm reminded, oh, there's other things here. I am constantly reminded that I'm not in control in life, and that there's so much uncertainty. And a lot of times that can feel really, really overwhelming, or really frustrating, or really, it can bring a sadness or a grief. And in those moments, it brings a joy and spaciousness and freedom. And that really excites me. So, anywho, I'm really excited that this episode, the 8th episode, happens to fall on the 8th of a month, and not just any 8th of the month, but my sister's birthday. So, this feels like a really sweet moment for me, a really sweet part of myself that gets to be in this podcast, part of my family that gets to be in this podcast, which is a part of me. And I really love that. And also, as cosmically aligned things would have it, I'm recording this episode on 4/4. So we're double numbers all over the place. Didn't intend for that to happen. It just happened that way. And so I'm really excited to to have all of these pieces, and also just this reminder to myself too, that this numbers thing, because for me, I know so many times it can be like a really silly thing for people, but I so enjoy just every time I see like 1111 or 333 on the clock, any repeating number, and like I'm showing with these dates, I just get really excited, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. There is, I also love, I love the etymology of words. I love looking up what repeating numbers mean. I love fun things like that. And I will also say that it just, while that part is fun, and I think sometimes that meaning can really help me feel connected to a moment, or feel connected to a question I'm living into at a time. It also, I'm realizing, is a lot about the joy that it just brings me in the moment. It's just a little, like a little sparkle in the day where I'm just like, oh, repeating number. And it may not, it may not have greater meaning. It just, it's just a sweet moment of joy in life. And to have the opportunity to potentially have that randomly, or I guess not so randomly because it falls exactly at that time. Um, but to have that potentially happen in each day, because it doesn't always necessarily happen. I don't always catch it on a clock. But when I do, it feels like such a sweet moment of uplifting joy and playfulness and almost like childlike joy. Yeah, joy. I'm keep coming back to the word joy. Childlike, um, yeah, childlike playfulness and giddiness and sweetness. And I love that I get the ability to tap into that daily. And I feel like I'm almost just right now realizing that that's what happens for me. And so I really love that. So I'm reminded of that, and I'm reminded too of not feeling like, of like owning that that's what that is for me, and that I like that. Sometimes other people may find the things that we do silly, or someone may just not understand it or may live a different way, and that's totally fine. And we don't need to change what's true for us, and like de-shine our own joy moments in life. Um, just due to someone else's difference, or not maybe going after understanding of what we have. And I find that sometimes with myself, that the things that really do bring me alive, sometimes if I'm in conversation with someone and they don't quite understand it, or there's like a question face that I'm getting on the other end, or or they just flat out say like that's ridiculous, or they don't understand, because it's not grounded in maybe practical things, or um, what is on their end reality. I find myself sometimes feeling like, oh, I gotta, like it's like a safety protective mechanism. Oh, I gotta, close this back in and rein it in. It's too much. And if you're listening, the motion my body even just made, these are like the somatic things I'm noticing about myself. The motion that my body just made was like a contraction, like I'm protecting all of the soft, um, sensitive organs in my body. Like it's like I want to protect. And I am just realizing over time that while it's not always the easiest to notice that protection comes up, or what to do when it does differently, if I want to actually still be present and still be myself in a conversation and hold my difference with someone else's. um, yeah, there's a lot there when we're used to the protection piece. And so as I've been practicing this differently or seeing it differently, I've noticed that it's just, that I can have grace with myself in those moments when I want to meet it differently, when it does feel tender to bring my difference, even in something that may seem really innocuous, like um, just having joy in repeating numbers and someone else not getting it and thinking it's silly, to not then have a tape deck in my head tell me that, oh yeah, it is silly and that is ridiculous. And like, let's, shut that away, which is just turning myself off and not bringing something that brings me joy. And, owning the fact that, sure, this may be a weird thing that I do. And what is weird, even? And I like being weird. I like being different. I like having moments of joy in my life. And can I just own that, even if someone doesn't understand it? And what does that bring? What energy shift does that bring when I'm not in this protection mode? If I don't have to be, if I'm not registering it as a threat, if it isn't. Um, and trusting myself to really discern the difference there. So that was a really fun, that was a really fun random way to start the podcast with repeating numbers and my joy and love of them, and also yeah, what can come up around that. And so it's funny because what's the question that I'm living into there? Um, and I think really it's it's the thread that I've been on in these solo episodes. It's can I Yeah, like can I honor my quirkiness? Can I honor my difference no matter how it shows up? Can I be with my joy? Can I be with the things that delight me? Can I yeah, can I feel freedom in what really does bring me more alive and expansive? Can I let myself really just have fun with life? Can I let myself yeah, be less, be like more playful sometimes and less serious? Can I let myself not know what is happening, to be like, yeah, sure, repeating numbers could mean a ton of things that I don't even know. can can I can I be with that without needing to tether it to anything? And yeah, it's so much. This question feels like so much, which stems off of something that may seem really small and random, but it feels like our big questions are connected to all of these parts of our lives. And it's so interesting to see when and where they come up, and when and where we're invited to show up more as ourselves. And for me, I actually find this a lot with astrology. I love astrology. It's so fun for me. I definitely create some guardrails around it. Over the years, I've just noticed what my system, how my system takes in information, and just really honoring my highly sensitive nature, um and how it needs to be communicated to. And so sometimes some astrology can feel really doomsday-y, and it's not to avoid the challenge pieces of things. And also, I find that when I'm navigating astrology, the way that I like to hear the challenge piece of things is with like is with an open heart and an open mind and an open perspective, like a curiosity of um, this may be tension, this may be a struggle you find, and what can you do here with these energetic elements at play? What might this look like? So instead of coming then from a fear base of, oh my God, I don't want to even think about that day, or I don't want to read astrology because now I've made it more predictive than it needs to be. I can like actually be with it in a way that feels like I'm sitting with a question that I get to live into, that I'm sitting with, how does this energy meet me? What are the things going on in my life that this kind of speaks to? And what can I be aware of? What can I be open to? What can I sit with, maybe a little bit deeper? And so I've definitely been caretaking around that with myself, to just know myself well, to take good care of myself there. Um, and and also what I was saying at the beginning of this that got me on the thread of astrology in the first place is that there are a ton of people who think astrology is ridiculous. And and me saying that I have a stellium in Sagittarius and Scorpio means nothing to them. These are like silly words. And I've definitely been in those conversations with people. And for me, it's just been so interesting to like come to astrology after a very long like over the course of time faith journey in my life. And I say this not because astrology I see as like faith, but I see it in like a spiritual space. And what I noticed in spiritual spaces is that I really the journey that I've been on and continue to be on is one where the thing that I didn't like about yeah, the like faith practices and like religions and things as I was in them was this like constriction moment, and was this feeling of like needing someone to believe what I believe. And that just never landed for me. There was always like a stickiness, like a tension where I was like, oh, that just doesn't feel right. Um, and so I've sat with that. I sat with that a lot and asked a lot of questions in a lot of different, even like in my travels in religions that weren't mine. I got to ask questions, and I got to see, um, got to ask questions of people in different religions, and I got to ask questions of people within um, churches that I attended, and different, I got to see basically like a thread of what connected them. And I got to see a lot of questions that I was still left with in a lot of ways. And what I found for myself was that there is like a really beautiful thread that connects all of it, which is like, which is love, really, that it distills down to love, not in a bypassing way or in like a we just love. I like I don't know how else to put it, but it's the core of what we're after. It is the it's the center of the things that are being done in in these different um, modalities. And when I saw it that way, it like took all of the other pieces that kind of muddle that core principle, that core thread that I found all the way through. Is like, yeah, to love one another, to be love. Um, yeah, that's what it is. It was like to be love embodied, to be love in practice. And then the way that that gets lived out by us wonderfully imperfect humans looks wildly different. And also, because uncertainty is so uncomfortable, that control piece comes back in, and it looks like, okay, now it needs to look this way. And love inherently is like just can't be contained like that. And therefore neither can faith, if that's like the core tenet that threads everything through from what I saw. And so all of that to say that I feel like what I noticed in my faith journey, um, attending different things and seeing what matched for me and what didn't, I there was just this sort of like liberating moment for me of not needing to necessarily be connected to a specific religion, and also to still be open to be connected to that embodiment of love for me is what I took away. Um, a deep desire to want to be connected to that embodiment of love, and also to know that that doesn't need to be confined, that that gets to be so much bigger. That, and another through line for me is like is 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 the belief that there is something bigger at play, that we are all connected, um, that we're connected to each other, that there's some bigger mystery here. And I don't know what that is. Some people call it God, some people call it the universe, some people call it the matrix, so, and um, but in all of those things, the one thing that doesn't change is that we are all connected and that we do all impact one another. Um, and that's important that's like an important thing to me. Um, and so, anywho, I'm realizing I got again um, into a different world with saying that. What I was originally saying is I'm glad that I had that experience because for me, I think a lot of times when astrology is talked about, it's looked at almost like a religion, like, oh, you believe this. This is like the thing you believe, and now you need other people to believe it. And with my faith journey, because of that liberating feeling of like, no, I don't need someone else to believe what I have. This is a tool I use. I don't look at it like a subscribed faith of mine. I look at it like a tool. I look at it like something that communicates um that communicates something that like puts words to things that I knew about myself but didn't have words for yet. So like when I first looked at my chart, the very first time I looked at my chart, my birth chart, and if you're unfamiliar, a birth chart is basically just like a snapshot of the sky the moment you were born and where those planets lie in different houses. And in different signs, they all mean different things and have different energetics to them and tell a story. And when I learned that story, when I heard that story for the first time, I remember just being like, that's it. And that was such a cool moment to be like, those are the words. That's what I wanted. That's what I've been trying to say and not really getting across as well. And yeah, I remember like one of my big things was learning that I was like um, a Sagittarius moon. And that meant so much to me because when I learned that, the words that it gave me were, it described that basically to emotionally regulate, I need to change environment. So I need to travel. I need to get in a car and road trip somewhere. I need to get out of the space that I'm in that maybe emotionally is unstable for me at the moment. And then I can come back. And so when before I had this, a lot of what my life looked like, and I just didn't really put full words to it, was that when I had, these harder moments, I would just get in a car and I would drive somewhere that would inspire me. I remember when I lived in the city and in Hoboken for a bit, when I would have moments that I just like needed to emotionally regulate, but I didn't know what I didn't know that that's what that was at the time. I would just drive to Newark Airport, like to the IKEA, actually, the IKEA parking lot across from Newark Airport, and watch planes take off. Um, and that was great for me. And then I felt like settled and I could come back. Or when I lived in San Francisco, I would take walks to Baker Beach all the time just to be able to like be by the water and see nature um and see the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge, or like to the park and just be walking under trees and touch a tree. And still to this day, and I find that I just go for a walk or take a drive or sometimes plan a trip. And a lot of times it was interesting to be in conversations with people where that can be misconstrued as running away from something. And I really, more often than not, didn't feel like the connection to that never is always a strong word. It didn't really connect with me when that was being shared. And I remember when I read this about my moon, my Sagittarius moon, I was like, that's it. My emotional regulation. This makes sense to me. And it makes sense why that phrase didn't land for me. Because it's not that it couldn't happen, right? We can try to, run and escape things. And also, that's not always what getting out of the environment that you're in presents. It actually can allow for room to, you know, room to breathe, space to actually get some clarity, to come back more grounded. And that was so fun for me to find. Um, Again, I've gone down another another fun tangent thread, or a connected tangent thread. Um, but all of this to say that yeah, I really feel like it is, yeah. So astrology is a tool that I find that I use for myself, and it helps me. And I really love that. And it isn't for everyone, and that's totally fine. And I am giddy to share it with people who are open to that. And also, I totally respect people who are completely uninterested or think it is, you know, bananas. That's fine. Like you do you. And I love being in that space where um I love being able to use it as a helpful tool if somebody wants it, and also not if they don't. And it's part of now the language that I use and speak with. And it's a tool. It's just a tool. And it's also something that I find that yeah, is one of these things where I get to hold my difference. It's it doesn't have to, you know, yeah, it doesn't have to say anything about me, simply because this is something that I'm into and interested in. I think it is I think it is something that actually yeah, like makes sense for who I am. Like the more that I get, yeah, congruent and confident in who I am, the more I trust who I am, the more that I love the person that I am, the more I love these playful parts of life, the more that I recognize that these sweet moments of joy are so precious. And it's so sweet when we can see the things that light us up in life. And having things like a love of repeating numbers, and liking using astrology as a tool, it makes sense to me that I love those things, and those things bring me joy. They naturally, for me at least, invite depth, invite further exploration. Um, that is so much of who I find myself to be, and what brings me great joy, and is something that I'm after endlessly. And I really love that. And they're just fun parts of life. And I really want to live into, that could be the real question here for me. Not that all of those other questions aren't real questions, but this may be the overarching one, is, can I let myself play in life? Can I let life be fun and curious and mysterious? And it reminds me too, actually, of, I'm listening to Bon Iver's new album, which like only a couple songs have been released from it, and I think the full album comes out next week. Which now, when this airs, will have already come out. So that is fun. And there's a song that he sings on it called "Award Season," and in that song, it's so beautifully written out, like a relationship in three parts. And it's like the beginning, the during, sort of almost like breakdown, and then the end of a relationship. And in it, he talks about the word change and uses it three different ways in each of those parts. And it moves me every time. So he says, you know what is great, nothing stays the same, talking about change and talking about how he didn't have this person in his life and now he does. And like, what's great, nothing stays the same. I met this person and now my life, ooh, like, look how beautiful it is. And then in the middle, when things are a little rocky, he says, oh, but maybe things can change. Maybe if we just try this or that, um, maybe this can change. And then in the end, in the parting of ways, he says, oh, why do things got to change? And, it's like being with the same word, being with the same thing, but all the different ways that it can look and all the different ways that we can be with the very same thing. And yeah, this conversation is reminding me of that. Um, is reminding me of, can we be with all the sides of the same thing? I'm curious about that. That this to me also feels like play, like getting to play with with words, getting to play with how we live into them, getting to play in life in this depth and like philosophical um, thinking, philosophizing is just fun for me. So this is play, but really, I'm very curious about what does it look like to let ourselves be be in, yeah, uncertainty in all of the different ways that it may show itself. It's the same thing as change, right? It's like sometimes uncertainty feels, you know, actually like really hopeful. Sometimes uncertainty feels really playful and I'm here for the mystery of it all. And sometimes it feels deeply uncomfortable and it feels almost like there is no ground below and we're free falling, and that's really terrifying. There's all different ways that the same the same thing can actually um you know be be met in life. And I'm realizing I want to be with that. I want to be able to play in that, to like be open just as much as I've been in the exploration of the uncertain and the unknown, as we so much are talking about in these episodes of living into the questions, which is all unknown, this middle part, all unknown, as we find our way to live our way into an answer potentially. All of it's uncertain, all of it's unknown. And a lot of that for me has felt heavy in the past bit of time. And this conversation today really is inviting this different relationship with uncertainty, this playful, excited, kid like wonder exploration of uncertainty, not needing to know the mystery, letting something else be at play that we don't need to be trying to control or figure out, but just really yeah, letting things sort of unfold. That doesn't mean not taking action in our life and, you know, just living passively. And also, it doesn't mean always doing that and always feeling like we need to do that. Where is that balance? And yeah, where can I invite that in more? I think that that's the question I didn't even know I was necessarily living into starting this episode, which is a really cool thing to come in, to like literally live into a question in this episode. I'm really loving that. So yeah, thanks for being on this journey with me. It's a curious one and it's a new one. This feels tender. Even as I was having this whole conversation, I was noticing the moments of tenderness for me that feel really vulnerable and feel like parts of my story that I'm still meeting in different ways. When we're always meeting ourselves in so many ways, but I'm just noticing those moments of tenderness, and this question feels tender to me. I'm so I feel like maybe our world is so practical that also playing with these pieces that are unexplainable, feels yeah, it feels a lot vulnerable. And I'm I'm just open to weaving it all, to being open to so much more than what I, you know, I as a human, as one human can potentially do in this world. To own that responsibility and show up in action in those things in my life, in the way that I live out my life, and the things that my heart is after, and the way that I want to um, love in this world, embody love as we come back to, and how I want to live that out in this world, with all of the things that go on in this world, and how can I show up responsibly in that, in the way that feels in integrity for me and who I am and who I want to continue to unfold to be, um, and continue to learn that I am and unfold to be. And also, um, where can I like let ego go and um, and know that it's not all me. You know, where where are the spaces where I can really let a bigger mystery be at play within the things that I'm holding responsibility for, because they don't feel separate, they feel connected. Yeah, I noticed this with myself, in the passing of beings in my life, the way I'm connected to ancestors, the conversations that I am feeling really, yeah, have really been invited forward, where I feel like I can communicate, just like in an empty room, I'll just start talking to an ancestor of mine. And there's something about that feels like that's connecting the interconnectedness of this mystery that I'm talking about. This feeling of like there are practical things to do on my day to day, and there are other things. I'm not alone. Um, I'm not unsupported by other things that might be at play. And yeah, the both and of all of that. And there's no tying a bow at the end of this conversation. It is a journey for a reason. It's a continued journey, and I'm just remaining curious in it and on it. And yeah, and I really think that this is a question about living into uncertainty in more of a holistic way. And by holistic, I mean not just this fear-based staring into the void uncertain, but also this like awe and wonder of like, I don't know so much. I don't know what else could be at play. There are so many circumstances that have happened in life that feel cosmic and unexplainable. And I love that. And there's something about that maybe is me romanticizing life. And I'm here for that. I'm down for that. And there's other moments where I feel really grounded in, um, I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's something here too about it's not it's not like a a bypassing cliche either, right? Because like it's not necessarily everything happens for a reason kind of thing. It's you we just don't know everything. And that can look so many different ways. That can actually look really joyful, and that can also look really hard and sad. Um, and can we make room for both? Can we make room for the uncertainty to hold more than just one thing, to let it not necessarily just scare us out of being with it, out of relating to it and having a different relationship to it. Whew, what an episode today. I went longer than I typically do, so this is a fun one. Thanks for being in this with me. This went so much more beautifully deeper than I expected it to go when I first started. Was I was just excited about the eight. And I also forgot to mention the eight. What's a really cool thing that I didn't realize that came up recently is that my dear friend is getting married, and the numerology of the day is eight. And when we were talking about it, I realized for that purpose, I was like, oh my goodness, you're getting married. It's an eight, and eight is the infinity symbol. And not until then, with all of this family special number of 8, I had not realized over the whole course of my life until like last year, um, when my friend and I had this conversation, that the 8 is the infinity symbol. And there's something so sweet about that, both connected to my dear friend and her wedding and her marriage, and also to my family and the fact that that is our family number and that there's this beautiful symbol, um, this infinity connection symbol that, yeah, that we hold. I'm also realizing the ring that I usually wear has that on it. And I've been wearing that the whole time. Haha. So, yeah, these are all of the things that I would be like joy, cosmic fun things. And, that's not everybody's joy moments, and that's okay. And they can still be mine. And I'm finding that that's the thing I'm living into the most right now is letting my joy be my joy and not need to make it different due to anyone else's joy looking different. That's part of the untangling people pleasing that I've been living into for quite some time and continue to. And that's a really tender thing to live into and something really beautiful to embrace because, man, we need each other's joy. We so need each other's joy. And when you feel someone's authentic joy, like it's from the depths of them, it's just like they can't even help it. It just oozes out of them. That is so special. And that is such medicine. And that's such a gift in this world. And so I want to remind myself of that because I feel it when I see it with other people. And I don't want to stifle that for myself. And that's always a really good reminder. If, sometimes we just need to be reminded of how special it is in someone else to be able to remind ourselves that the same is true for us and that, again, we're all connected. And so the impact of my joy is actually much wider spread than I'll ever know. So I could talk about this for, ever, it seems. So I'm going to close this beautiful conversation. I feel really inspired by it in my body. I'm really interested to see how I continue to live it out through the day today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening in and being in these conversations and remaining curious in your own life through them. The things that you're all sharing about the episodes that you're listening to they have just touched my heart so much. Thank you for sharing. Please continue to share. I am loving being in conversations with you and hearing the conversations that you're in and that you get to have beyond these. And yeah, I just love them so much. If you're looking for to deepen in conversation, I'm offering coaching opportunities. The link is in the show notes, and feel free to reach out to me so that we can chat about ways to dive deeper. And until next week, thank you so much. Take really good care of yourself, and I will see you on the next episode.